All right.
3, 2, 1. Welcome to the Lightforge! This is ULDUM.
Wow, you're real energetic today for the expansion that hasn't come out yet.
Okay. This is like the most exciting time. Merps, who did not introduce himself. That was Merps, the grumpy one. This is always the most exciting time for me because I get excited about all the cards and how good they are, and Merps is the hater. If you guys don't know the inside scoop on how we do the tier lists and how we value these cards, I generally am pretty positive about new cards, and Merps generally hates on them and talks about how each one doesn't really fully work, can't be that good, blah, 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 blah.
But when I do like a card, watch out.
That's true. There's like
watch out for that one.
3 cards, maybe probably less than 3. I think there's only 1 to 2 cards every meta that you actually like more than me, and those are like the cards you like champion through, and you have a very high like success rate on those, because like we use a underlying algorithm for it, which is like it's an algorithm that works for all cards that have been printed in Hearthstone, or not all of them, but like 99 point something % of them. And so it's pretty damn accurate. So when Merps is like, I think I like this card better than the algorithm, we look in and then we try to figure it out, and we don't figure it out, and he sometimes still likes it, and the chances that actually ends up being a problem later is actually pretty high. But it's usually because we had to change something overall that would actually affect everything, and it's nothing we could do like at the moment. But anyway, this is the most exciting time for me because I mean, it's not that I don't like playing the game. I obviously am still playing the game. Of the two of us, I've played much more this year than Merps has.
You have significantly more.
Yeah, it's a role reversal. I think up until 2019, you have played consistently more arena games than I have every year.
Yes. This is the year of Advocta.
It's true. I kicked off the year as the Twitch Rivals champion, right? Then we got the high score. Meanwhile, I've been playing. Maybe it's connected. Maybe playing this game does help you get better at it. I don't know. But what really excites me is doing all the work before the game starts, right? Like that's why we do the tier list and we try to predict things, and we have a very high accuracy rate. It's very exciting to be able to look at what Blizzard's trying to do to the game and then evaluating it. And then when buckets come, I get to be like, ha ha ha, look how much more right I am than Blizzard. But before that, the actually figuring out how each of the pieces fits into the physics of the game of Hearthstone is really exciting to me. And we're deep into it now. 50%, a little more than 50% of the cards that will be in SOU have been released. And this is the kind of set that I like, because nothing is happening. Like, Reborn is not a mechanic. It's just Death Rattle by a fancier name. Okay, it's Death Rattle with injured. So it's like a fancier Death Rattle. Because the things that come back are actually injured, which we'll get to pretty soon on how cards interact with that. But then you got Plagues, which are just like normal cards. And then you have Lackeys, which is literally the same mechanics we had in Shadows. Like, nothing's happening. And because nothing's happening, what that means is that I get to drill down even further into the physics of what already exists in Hearthstone and like improve my understanding of it. So that's always fun. Anyway, I'm really excited about this expansion. Normally, I think I'm less excited about an expansion, and there's nothing about this expansion in particular besides how basic it is that's making me excited. So I think this is not a good sign for Blizzard. That I'm excited about the expansion. I think this expansion is going to go pretty terribly for Blizzard. That's just my prediction, because I like it. Not from a balance perspective, but I like it from a design perspective. And you don't want me to like it from a design perspective. That's not generally a good sign.
This is definitely the canary in the coal mine situation, where if Advocta really likes your expansion, that's not the direction. It's like the Venn diagram of what people like, human beings, and what Advocta likes. There's no overlap there. So if Advocta likes it, it's just, it's wrong. Like, that's not the direction you want to go in. No, but in all seriousness, I mean, it is a quote basic expansion in that way. When you were saying it's like, this is the kind of expansion that I love, I think a lot of people would have been like, wait, WTF? Because already there is a ton of chatter about the power level of this
so high. so freaking high.
Very high.
Like we haven't algorithmed all the cards that have been revealed yet, but the ones that we have, it's just like, oh, really? Here's another 200 score card. There's not that many 200 score cards. It's not that bad, but there's a lot of cards that are going to be like 150 or knocking on the door of 150.
Oh yeah, definitely. So if you guys were not in the loop for this week, since July 22nd, we have had a huge amount of cards being released or previewed. I would say that this past week, we have learned more about the power level, about the class identities, and of the overall kind of structure of this expansion. Like it's all coming into view now. Before it was like, hey, here are the quote mechanics, like reborn, blah blah. Here are a couple of the plagues. We'll give you a couple of the interesting class cards. Like 2 weeks ago, they put out the 1 health minions cards related to the paladin. And everyone was like, oh, okay, well, they're just previewing this sort of new deck archetype that they're pushing. But this past week, oh man, this is when we are seeing some real heavy hitters from neutrals and for certain classes. And what is quite a surprise.
Oh, yeah. Okay. So it's, well, we're going to get into it. We're not going to go over like the most powerful cards. We're just going to talk about some cards we're interested in and just kind of like talk. The valuation stream, if you guys don't know, we always do a huge, like, I want to say 5, but probably 6 or 7 hour long Lightforge broken up into many parts right before every single expansion launch. It's going to be next Sunday. We will have all the Lightforge scores, not final. It could change in like the 24 hours between when we record that and when we release it, but basically final scores for all the cards. It's always a great time. Make an appointment, call your friends, make a thing of it, get some chips, see us burn out halfway through it as we normally do. The last one, actually, Merps wasn't a part of. Actually, went pretty fast because there was only like one person talking. Like it actually cut down and made like that reveal set that thing more manageable in terms of just like a huge like period of time where we have to be on. But I think the analysis was not as good. And I'm sure people are like, hey, but you didn't mention this thing. And I was like, oh, yeah, because Merps wasn't there to tell me I'm being stupid. But yeah, this time Merps will be there. And so it's gonna be your normal 6-hour party. For the rest of our schedule, we are not having any streams this week. 0 streams. Normally we cancel the Friday stream. We're also canceling the Tuesday stream for this expansion, mostly because I just don't want to play Rise of Mechs anymore. Like that was an event-like setting that lasted for 2 months, and I'm done with it. I ended on a 12-win run. I'm done. You'll see that one come up midweek. So if you're looking for some content, YouTube has all the 12 wins we have. They're all pretty exciting. I think the good part about Rise of Mechs is that in an event like meta, when you get 12 wins or whatever, it gets especially ridiculous. So that's all good. And if you haven't watched it, the Paladin Lightforge from like 2 weeks ago. I'm not Lightforge, Arena Coup from 2 weeks ago. That's a keeper. It's one of the most fun arena coups I think we've done. So there's enough content to keep you entertained, and if you're up to date on all of that, the last 12-win run that I got on Friday night, that will be released on either Wednesday or Thursday on our YouTubes. So week of streams is canceled. Next Sunday, me and Merps are going to be here with the valuation stream, and then the expansion is going to launch on Tuesday. So the expansion is going to launch on August 6th. I will be streaming solo. Then on Wednesday, August 7th, Merps will have his first solo stream back as a bonus stream. So definitely come out and support him on that. And also just, you managed to literally not do a single solo stream or even solo run in the entirety of Rise of Shadows.
I did. That was a pro play by me.
That was a super pro play.
People ask all the time, it's like, oh man, how do I play this meta? you play like Mercs and don't play the meta. Oh shit.
I think you won this meta out of all of us arena players. So that's going to be Wednesday, and then I'll be back on Thursday night and Friday night, the 8th and the 9th, for two nights of solo streams. I think I'll have a guest on one of the nights. I'm in the works for something. And then on Saturday, on the 10th, sometime during the day or night, unconfirmed yet, but Merps will have a second bonus stream.
I will. Unconfirmed as of right now, but I would definitely be streaming. I'll update you guys. But Saturday, I'm thinking maybe even like a EU friendly stream.
Oh, EU friendly streams. We don't do enough of those.
We'll see. I know, for our EU buddies.
Yeah. So yeah, then the 11th after that is our normal Lightforge Coop and normal streams, and then the 13th on Tuesday, normal streams, going back to our schedule. So yeah, so that's our upcoming stream schedule. Okay, now that you've sat through that, we can get to what you're actually here for: Saviors of ULDUM cards. The first one we should talk about is actually not a card. I mean, it is a card, but you can't put it in your deck and you can't draft it. And it is Titanic Lackey. You wanna talk about Titanic Lackey?
Sure. So if you guys have been playing in this rotation, you should know about the Lackey cards, right? That you can generate in any class. But we have one more Lackey. It is called Titanic Lackey. Once again, it's a 1-mana 1/1, and battle cry is give a friendly minion +2 health and taunt. So this is just added to the pool. You can still get all of the other lackeys, like the deal 2 damage, the discover spell, but now you have also a chance of getting the Titanic Lackey and giving a friendly minion. That's key. You can't give the opponent minion +2 health and taunt. But yeah, this is another thing. All classes will be able to taunt more, and
Yay.
It makes me pretty sad. We already have Tar Creeper and Stonehill coming back,
and we have Sleepy Dragon and Mammoth at the top end.
Don't care about those.
Turn 9? What?
Turn 9, gosh. Either they're dead or I'll be dead by then. But this is impactful. Like, because as we've seen from some reveals as well, they have given classes new ways to generate lackeys, some pretty good ways as well. So you're going to see lackeys. You might not see it in the same classes. For example, Rise of Shadows is gone, so Miscreant is gone, right? So rogues have
a new lackey generator that will not be as good as Miscreant, hopefully.
Yeah, exactly. But this is another one in which it could definitely swing the game. It's not as swingy as like the Rush lackey, right? In terms of initiative being so important. But you know, anything that impacts the board, anything that taunts, it will definitely sort of push the meta into this kind of slower pace that we have already anticipated.
Yep. Yeah. I mean, the pace was going to be slower. We're talking about if you didn't hear the last Lightforge podcast, we went over the new meta coming in and that. So we're just going to kind of pick up from there without too much in depth, because like these days, whenever you're in this new rotation meta, right, it's all different. Yeah, like all the old sets are leaving, totally new sets are coming in. I mean, not new sets, but like old sets, but not the same ones. Like no duplicate sets between metas. So we did the analysis then. Basically, it's going to be slower. You're going to start on 3 instead of 2. You can start on 2 if you want, assuming there's enough 2-drops in this upcoming expansion, which so far looks good. But you're going to have a good option to start at 3, and then a whole bunch of taunts are back. A lot of other stuff we talked about. You should go listen to that Lightforge. But now you add this taunt and this Titanium Lackey addition. I think it's going to be pretty impactful. In addition to just like being a defensive tool like Merps talked about, what it also does is it dilutes the Lackey pool. Not that this is a bad lackey. All their lackeys are actually valued at very similar amounts. They're pretty balanced. But you can't just like play it on the same turn and get good value out of it. Like, you get okay value out of it. You get a total of 4 stats, but like, depending on what you have on the board and what's generating this lackey, you may not want to add the health to that creature, right? And sometimes you're generating a lackey not even from a creature, right? From a spell or a weapon or whatever. And then you may have nothing on the board and you can't play this for tempo on that turn. So one of the worst parts about lackey design, or maybe not worse, it's more like one of the most overpowered things in the arena for lackey design, is that you were able to like pretty consistently use it to get tempo on the turn that it's played, right? Deal 2 damage, summon a 2-drop, even charge your generator sometimes. They're pretty reliable, and it's less reliable now. So I like the design of this +2 health thing. It's not a total whiff. Like, if you need to play it, you get a decent amount of your stats back. Because remember, in most lackey generators, you're committing like 1 mana to it before you get your lackey. So your lackey recovers 1 mana. And if you don't care about the taunt, you're just getting 2 extra stats back in addition to your 1/1, you've like barely recovered your mana, right? So it's a good evening feel. I like the design.
Yeah, this one is one of the tamer lackeys, especially for arena, in which what you're afraid of is just large swings or unexpected tempo, right? So in terms of kind of problematic lackeys, it's really sort of like the rush ones sometimes, and then the evolve ones, like, which create sort of the most BS. This one is like one of the more fair ones, right? Because if you're thinking about taunts, it's like, well, it's like you should be prepared for taunts anyways, especially in the next meta. And then when you use a card to generate another card, that's pretty good. Like, this is pretty fair. So the only thing that is left that is quote unfair is the swings from the different types of lackeys that you are able to get, which is the only unfair part left, because they're all pretty powerful, and the problem is they do vastly different things. Their effects are ridiculously polarized. You have slow ones, well, potentially slow ones, like the discover spells, and then you have, which create another sort of Pandora's box of what the heck is going to happen, and then
RNG within RNG, and then the spell you get's going to have RNG, triple layered RNG.
I know. Yaxaron's box or whatever that card is.
Oh my god, we need to talk about that. We need to talk about that later. We'll get to it.
Okay. Oh yeah. You have a score for that, don't you?
I have a score for Puzzle Box.
Ooh, all right, guys. I don't know this yet. I have no idea. I'm curious to see what the preliminary score is. But anyways, to wrap up my thoughts on lackeys, I'm glad they're only just adding 1, because if they added, for example, 5 more, then that would be really, really bad. Because part of what makes lackeys okay, at least for now, is I sort of know what could happen, even though it's very different. It's wildly swinging, but at least there's only a few points.
Yeah.
If there were like 12 lackeys out there, right? If there were just 12 lackeys and they all did incredibly, incredibly different things, I think I would just absolutely hate the meta. Anyways.
Yeah, you only don't hate the previous 2 metas because you weren't in it.
I still played some. I was like, wow, this sucks. I can't imagine if I actually played.
It was pretty bad. Just very glad Rise of Shadows is leaving the meta, and not looking forward to whenever they bring it back. So, okay, let's jump in. There's an elephant in the room, I think, when it comes to arena players, and the elephant in the room is not the 9 mana card that was revealed, but we'll get to it. But let's just kick off with some cards. So we have a list that we're going to go down of cards that we found interesting. And the first one the whole community is talking about, I think the post that was on Arena HS is Lightforge rated 150 plus card in Arena. And Nephroset Ritualist is the card. If you are watching this on YouTube, you can see it on the screen. It's right in the middle there. It's green people. They don't look particularly threatening. It's a 2 mana 2/3. Battle Cry, restore adjacent minions to full health. So once again, I hate adjacency. I hate this whole like ordering thing. But more importantly, you may be thinking, wait, so here's a 2-mana 2/3 that's on curve, and like it could just get you like 8 more stats if you get like the right situation. Is that right? And the answer is yes. It is right. And yeah, it's gonna be really powerful. This is not a fake out. I will say this is not like so broken. Like it's just I don't even think it's like at the very top. Like Giggly Inventor before they nerfed it was totally broken. That was a 200 score neutral card. Like that was a broken card. Primordial Drake is like borderline broken, right? Like Scribe is borderline broken. Like Primordial Drake stopped being a problem in the meta when it was moved to the bottom of the first bucket. Right? We all remember when that happened and how it just became like a card. So Nephroset Ritualist, I think, is like in that kind of bucket, like that kind of like power level, and I don't know if it's like flashy enough for Blizzard to actually put it in a bucket like that, or for people to be picking it that often. But it's super powerful. It's not unheard of power level. It's just my point. It's not going to be 150 plus.
I'm calling it right now, top of the 4th bucket.
Oh god. So yeah, if they bucket it like Hogsteed and Scribe, and if there's like a couple of these cards in this expansion, it's going to be just as bad as Rise of Shadows.
Yeah, it's going to be really, really annoying. Because not only is the meta slowing down a little bit, first of all, you're going to have to see how much initiative is out there, but no amount of initiative in the meta is going to allow any class to keep on removing, to keep on sort of doing this stuff, because the sets that are coming back as well, especially, for example, Ungoro and which was the other set I'm thinking about? Anyways, they have very polarized minions with a lot of health, right? This is when they were trying to mix up the game and be like, oh, what's interesting? Polarized stats. So not only does it allow you to heal those things, but Reborn is a naturally good complement to this, just because it always comes back with 1 health. And you might say that some cards with Reborn are just low health naturally, but there are quite a few mechanics in this expansion to give other minions Reborn. So this can get really, really, really annoying. If you guys remember Hosen Healer, which was a 4-mana 2/6 that only healed 1 other minion to full health.
And it's a 2/6. Okay, Oasis Snapjaw is a 2/7. So that actually gave something up.
It gave up something quite significant. It's not a great stat line. And it was still okay. You saw it won games at certain points. And this thing is just... when I look at this card, I always just wonder, why couldn't they make this a 2-mana 2/2? I just really don't understand. I don't understand why they couldn't make this a 2-mana 2/2. I don't think this would get play in Constructed, and even if it did, I'm pretty sure the stats wouldn't really matter. Like the fact that it was a 2-mana 2/2. I think if you're using this in Constructed, it would just be like you're not dropping this on 2. It would just be used with some sort of crazy combo or whatever. So I don't get it. I really don't get it when they're doing this kind of stuff. Why go the Dragon Slayer route, right? Why give a card perfectly vanilla stats and then a pure bonus on top? That doesn't hit every time, but when it does, it's ridiculous, right? So this is the Dragon Slayer syndrome.
Okay, it's the Dragon Slayer in terms of swing. It's not as bad as Hate Design, because this will be applicable every game, and it doesn't really rely on your opponents playing a specific card.
Yeah, it's not as bad as that, just because with Dragons, there was no way around that. But it's still in that vein in which I'm like, why give a pure sort of situational bonus to a card with no penalization at all? I was like, this would have been fine as a 2/2. Why did you have to go with me?
So the overall power level of this expansion is high. This card is the highest neutral one so far. It kind of makes me scared that the ones that they don't show, because the ones they don't show are usually actually the highest ones. I can't remember the last time the King of Arena was actually revealed in like before the card dump. Like it's always in like the last 30 cards that they show us, and we're looking through it and we're like, whoa, really? That's like a Savannah High main. So I'm kind of scared. But hey, this at least does do one thing that we haven't seen in a while. We actually haven't seen it since Kobolds and Catacombs, which is this is a 2-drop with better tempo than a 3/2 or a 2/2.
Yeah.
Now, you have to have a 1-drop or a coin and another 2-drop before you play it, right? But it is the first one printed in a long time. So it's good to see Blizzard getting back into the whole, okay, 2-drops can have more tempo than a 2/3, at least in certain situations. But yeah, this is kind of, I don't know. We'll see how weird it is. I just want to get 2 points out. One is the people who say this is insane are not crazy, but 2 is that it's not actually like a power level we haven't seen before.
Right. And if you hate it because you sort of hate the design of it, or you hate the potential swing of it, that's totally appropriate.
Yeah.
But if you think it is actually going to be the best card, it's like, well, no, let's calm down a little bit there.
Yeah. It's like, this is, I mean, it's not like when Primordial Drake came out and we were like, what? You're allowed to do that in neutral? Now it's like, oh yeah, this is just Primordial Drake. But rather than for like being behind and catching back up, it's for being ahead and like really being ahead. So, whatever. I'm sure we're gonna all hate it and it's gonna be underbucketed, but Blizzard, you have a chance. You have a chance to bucket this bottom of the first. All right.
Yep.
Next card I want to talk about is, I think design overall suffers a bit for this expansion when it comes to the neutrals, at least that we've seen so far. But they're all pretty basic designs, so I still like them, even though they're not as good as previous basic designs. There's a lot more of them, which is good for the arena. So Sunstruck Henchman is the next one I want to talk about. It is a 4-mana 6/5 rare neutral card that says, at the start of your turn, this has a 50% chance to fall asleep. And falling asleep just means you miss your turn. It's like being frozen. So it is +1/+1 on the stats that it should be, although it's not the way you want it. You want a 5/6, especially if you're trying to overcurve, not a 6/5. But it has
they do this quite often with the ogres. They offensively load them, and then they give it an ogre effect, which is good design, because obviously, like with their effect, you want it to be flipped the other way. And this is sort of like a, hey, you get a bonus, like you get bonus stats, but we're not going to give it where you want us to give the bonus stats.
Yep. And so the downside is it's worse than, well, depends, right? It's kind of maybe it's a coin toss. I don't know. It's definitely interesting because it's not the same as your normal ogre effect. You can pick where it hits. It knows where it's hitting. It's just not going to be able to hit anything half the time. And if you lose your coin flip on the first turn after you play it, that's pretty bad. Because you don't get an action that turn. Like, that's worse than if your 4/4 misses and hits face, because on that turn, your 4/4 probably has only good targets that it can hit into, or at least okay targets that it can hit into. For if you compare this to the Ogre Brute that was just in the meta before. On the other hand, if you win your coin flip, you already got your kill. You can free kill pretty much everything besides a 5/4, and then everything else is bonus. So it's a very heavy RNG card. Later in the game, like on curve, it's a very heavy RNG card, which if this card existed in the prior meta would have been terrible because it was a very curve-based meta. In the upcoming meta, which I think will be less curve-based and have more comeback mechanisms, it's less terrible to have these high swing curve cards. And later on in the game, it's actually less of an issue than Ogre Brute because you can control where it hits. And that becomes more important than on turn 3.
Yeah, so I do not like the design of this card at all. It's so different, in my opinion, than the ogre mechanics that we've seen before. So what I'm talking about is the Ogre Brute mechanic, which is essentially the person who played the Ogre card can decide whether or not they attack, and then there is a 50-50 chance that it will actually attack the thing that you chose, and then if it rolls 50-50 against you, then it will randomly pick another eligible target. So I hate the design of this because for a card like Ogre Brute, you are putting the burden of the you're putting the burden of the downside on the person playing the card and asking them to do more risk assessment, to do this analysis.
Mm-hmm.
But with a card like this, essentially you play this, you can internalize the risk as someone who's playing it, but the person who's really doing the risk adjustment goes to the opponent. It just goes to the opponent to try to be like, okay, like it shifts sort of this responsibility to the opponent to be like, okay, well, do I take the chance of this thing falling asleep, blah, blah. And I don't like that as much. I don't like cards in which when you put them out, it puts pressure on your opponent in this sort of risk assessment way. I want it to be on me. I want it to, like, I want this card with the downside for me to be able to control partly just because I want that control, right? As a good player, you always want that control. I want the ability to negate the downside as much as possible. And for me, even though I'm able to internalize the risk of playing this, it's just not the same thing, right? It's just not the same thing as me being able to control the attack and say, maybe I don't attack, or maybe it's worth it. And I can calculate, okay, even if it misses, it's only a 25% chance to hit this thing that's really bad. And, but overall, it's worth it for me to attack. So I really don't like this card. And man, it's definitely the worst ogre effect card that I think they've printed.
Wait, really? What about that ogre that's coming back in which you randomly attack into that ogre? The announcer, Mashag announcer. That's so much worse. Because you're forcing your opponent to engage in this RNG. It's not even you. You don't even pick to be a part of this, right? You're like, oh, now we're in the Mashag announcer game. It's coming back in this meta. Like, I think Mashag announcer only didn't get its thing because it was only in the meta for 4 months before the Rastakhan rotated out.
No, so in my opinion, I think this is still worse because it's a matter of do things or don't do things as well. In terms of like Mashag announcer, it's kind of like a pseudo taunt, and for this one, it's like either you have complete control or like you just didn't play anything, right? So the other one is sort of a pseudo taunt one, and I do agree because you are loading the burden onto your opponent as well. But I think that the swing of this card is more than the announcer. But I get what you're talking about. That is also one in which you shift the burden of this risk assessment to your opponent. So I don't like that design as well.
Yeah.
Even though I drafted that card a ton.
I mean, it's one of the most powerful neutral cards ever printed. So it's also Mashag announcer is pretty lowly bucketed. And Ogre Brute was pretty lowly bucketed because people don't like to pick these effects. They don't like ogre effects. And so this one's probably going to be very lowly bucketed. Not very, but like fairly lowly bucketed compared to where it should be. And it's a pretty good card. Like, if you're wondering, like, I don't know if we were obvious about it up front, but like, it's going to get used. It's better than a Yeti. Like, you're going to want to pick it. And it's going to be bucketed probably below a Yeti. So you're definitely going to want to pick it whenever it comes out, and there's not an even more over bucketed card that's up for picks. So this is going to be a key part of the meta, assuming the bucketing goes the way we think it is. We think it goes. So learn to live with it. It's here to stay. So that's what I want to highlight with Nephroset Ritualist and Sunstruck Henchman. Very, very rarely at this point in time in the reveal season do we know what the meta is going to look like. Because usually the key neutral cards aren't even released yet. There's so many neutral cards that haven't been revealed yet. It's not like they've released more neutral cards than they normally do. But these are some key arena cards. and they're almost guaranteed to be under bucketed. Because remember, Blizzard buckets and then adjust buckets based on what average players in the arena, average players being 3-3 casual players, what they would pick. And I don't know. I don't know if Never Said Ritualist stands out to non-arena players as being like insanely powerful. And Sunstruck Henchman, people just don't like playing with it, right? Like it feels bad if you like lose your coin flip on this one. So yeah, this is the meta. The meta is gonna be one snowball card and one literal RNG card. Not even like RNG that you can somehow adjust or do whatever. It's not a deadly shot. It's not a mad bomber. It's pure coin flip RNG.
Yep, this is pure coin flip. Because once again, for the Ogre Brute effect, it's just like you said, you can manipulate the board, right?
Yep.
To increase your advantage. With this, it's just literally coin flip, all or nothing. I get an overstated minion, or for this turn, it's just it can't do anything, right? So really, really annoying. Although I am surprised that this thing is going to come out to be better than a Yeti. So guys, I don't know all the scores yet.
Yeah, there are preliminary scores. They may change, but I'm pretty sure it's going to come out to be better than a Yeti.
Really? That definitely surprised me.
It's not going to be like that much better than a Yeti, but I think it's going to be better than a Yeti.
All right. This is where Merps the hater.
Oh.
The lights are flashing. I'm just like, I don't know about this one, Chief.
I don't know. Like half the time it's just pure upside, right? And the downside, half.
Okay. All right. We're gonna talk about this a little bit.
We'll talk about this. We'll see if we're doing the RNG right on this. But okay. Either way, it's gonna come out somewhere around a Yeti, even if it gets lower to be below a Yeti.
Okay.
Okay. But we'll definitely look deeper into the RNG effect of it and how much we're penalizing that. Because now that I think about it, we may not be penalizing that like as RNG. We may just be calculating like what it's doing. Okay. So other neutral cards exist. We're just spending a lot of time on neutrals right now because neutrals determine the meta. This one's a fun one. Anubiseth Warbringer, 9 mana, 9/6. Death Rattle, give all minions in your hands +3/+3.
Yeah. All right. So I'll tell you guys right now. This is a card that surprised me, not because of anything about the card itself, because this is like, obviously something Blizzard would print, but Crip in a tweet called out this card specifically as the next king of arena or something. Basically he implied that this was going to be a really, really powerful and staple card in the arena, which surprised me because
it won't be.
Don't think so.
No, it 100% won't be.
Yeah.
It may be a staple card in the way like a Yeti is a staple card in the arena.
I can count on one hand the amount of neutral 9-drops that don't have an immediate effect, because that number is 0. Right? It's like
I mean, it's so slow.
They both do something, yeah. Oh boy.
Like it could be a staple in the arena if Blizzard puts it in the bottom of the 5th bucket.
Yeah.
But even then, I think you're wrong to pick it. I think even in the bottom of the 5th bucket, you're wrong to pick it. But I think people may pick it because it looks like it's powerful, and then it could be like part of the meta. But its win rates aren't going to be high because it's not a good card, and it's not like a tricky to use card or anything like that. It seems like it's a tricky to use card, but it's not. It's just bad because you're never correct in holding the cards, and like you have to be in some weird like control v control stand up that goes to the bitter end for this to be like a better than Yeti pick.
Yeah. So it was really surprising to me just because Crip is obviously a very, very, very good arena player. And whenever, and this is bound to happen, whenever a really good arena player has an opinion that's very different from mine, I like to just sort of wake up a little bit and think, okay, what are they thinking, right? Because when I see this card, I'm just like, yep, this is pretty trash, and I would never really pick
I
it.
don't think it's
And
total trash. Let's not hate on it too much. It's
no, I'm hating
pickable.
on it
Really?
that
You think it's
much.
total trash? You think it's below like 80?
I think we're close.
Oh
Yeah,
wow. Okay.
yeah. I think that's kind of where we're at.
All right. I don't hate it that much. I wouldn't take it over a Yeti, so I think it's like draftable, but I don't think it's like good. But yeah, I don't know. There's before anyone like plays with these cards, I don't know that I trust anyone's opinions more than the algorithm or myself. Like,
I think that's totally fair. The thing is, if this card were to actually have a significant impact on the meta, that means the meta would be much slower than I anticipate it, number one. And number two, it would be the first of its kind
yeah.
as a 9 drop that doesn't impact the board right
Not
away.
only does it not impact the board right away, most of its power, like not most of its power, but like a good quarter of its power, a third of its power, is actually like on a death rattle. It's not even
significantly
normally.
backloaded.
Yeah, it's not even like,
Yeah.
oh, it's a 9/9 with Wind Fury. It's like, oh, that's not good. But like at least it's all on the board and you can use it by the next turn. This has to be dead for you to use it. And then it takes you some more turns to actually use all of its effects because you can't just play out your whole hand the next turn, most likely.
Right. Yep.
It's just,
So,
yeah. I do think that this may be one of the slowest metas we've ever been in. I think that's possible. I don't think it's likely, mostly because of how the warrior meta shaped up towards the end of last year. But it is going to be a very slow meta, so it's not a bad meta for this card. But it's not a. This card is not going to be a premium neutral in the arena.
yep.
Um,
But another tool for those control decks, although it's weird, right? It's like after a certain point in the game, I don't know how many cards you have in your hand. And if you're a super control deck, you really need the AoEs, you need the spells, of which you're going to get quite a few of them because of just the sets that are rotating back in. So it's like, how much value are you going to get?
yeah.
Anyways, it just scares me a little bit because I don't want this to be a meta impacting card because if this is actually really impacting the meta, I'm just like, oh my god, no, please no. I really don't want
No,
this.
this is great. If this is actually impacting the meta, you win as Face Hunter every time. You want this to be a meta impacting card because it means the meta will be super favorable to extreme aggro.
Like there's meta impacting, and I guess like there is also a world in which aggro hunter just can't like I can't get under
Yeah.
because they have all the AoEs, right? So this is like the worst nightmare in which I can't get under.
No, you'll be fine. We haven't seen any small AoEs yet. All the AoEs are pretty big, so I feel like aggro is the good counter to where the meta is normally going to.
And it's like if aggro hunter was able to get under the disgusting warpath warriors,
Warpath,
right?
jeez.
It should be able to get under sort of, like Anubiseth Warbringer Mage or something like that. So fingers crossed. We'll see.
Yeah. Okay. And the last neutral card I want to talk about is Generous Mummy because it's fun. 3 mana, 5/4, Reborn. Your opponent's cards cost 1 less.
How is this fun?
Well, it's a fun design, right? Because Reborn means you get an extra 5/1, so it's not just an overstated minion. It's like a extremely overstated minion, like unbelievably overstated minion, right? Like a overstated minion, the likes of which is more overstated than a 5 mana 8/8 or a 4 mana 7/7.
So having said that, this must be amazing, right?
It's the worst. Like I mean, it's not gonna be a 0. But I kind of want to make it a 0 just so no one ever freaking takes this card. Because the ability on it says your opponent's cards cost 1 less. That means you're just going to give your opponents like free tempo. And you can't kill it off because it has Reborn. So the fact that it keeps staying on the board is really bad for you.
I never knew, or like I never thought that they would be able to use Reborn in a negative way yet. And when I saw this card, I was like 3 mana 5/4 reborn. I was like, whoa! And then your opponent's cards cost one less. I'm like, oh my god, the design of this thing is
Yep.
ingenious. You
Uh-huh.
used reborn as a negative on a minion, and I'm just like, oh my god. First of all, yeah, this card is trash. This is absolute trash because the amount of tempo that you gain here versus the amount of tempo that you're giving your opponent, no. It's like you gain a ton, just like Adukta says, but you open up the floodgates for a beating from your opponents, and they can just ignore this. And unless you are using the fact that they're ignoring this as like you can capitalize on it significantly. No. You lost the game. You guys know how much I love sort of minions with quote significant downsides, like dancing swords and that kind of stuff in my aggro hunter. This is undraftable. You can't. You just lose. And if you're a control deck or a slower deck, even other slower decks, they would love for you to play this because they have removals and they don't really care about a couple of extra stats. And if you're an aggro deck, holy cow, you cannot play this because you just allow them to like go free and you can't trade with it. So you essentially just give them this effect for the rest of the game.
Yeah, this is a constructed card because there are certain decks that this card will take down. And it's not even that good of a constructed card unless those decks are in the meta. Because it's very specifically designed so that you put it out there and your opponent's like, ah, crap, I can't really take advantage of this that much because I don't want to play all my cards out, for example, right? Like, that's not how I win the game. Unfortunately, this is the arena. Playing all of your cards out is how you win almost every game. So, even in a control deck, this is not playable on 3. You might as well just put in, like, a 6-drop or a 9-drop into your deck, right? Rather than a generous mummy. Because what you're looking from it is just a crap ton of stats. It's like unplayable on turn 3, which destroys its purpose because its purpose is kind of like to be a really large amount of stats for in the very early part of the game. Other than that, its purpose is very little. You're just saving a couple of mana. What would this be? If it had no downside, this would be something like 5-6 mana. So you're saving like 2-3 mana in the late game. Whoopee, right? Like, and your opponent will probably get 2-3 mana just like normally playing, as if this ability didn't exist if this was played in the late game. So if you played it in the late game, it's a pretty normal kind of card. Assuming your opponent doesn't take advantage flat out and kill you. If you play it in the early game, you lose the game in the arena. So this is not a card. I can see myself being desperate enough to take it. I can see it. Because it is a high swing kind of card, and sometimes your deck is just that bad. But really, no. I also don't think this is going to be like in the meta at all. This feels like a card that people wouldn't take, and so it'll just be 7th bucketed, and you'll never see it. But yeah, it's not going to be good. We're not going to rate it a 0, but you should treat it as if it's rated a 0 if you're a good player. It's too much RNG.
Do not pick this card. Please do not pick this card. It doesn't fit into any archetype.
Yep. Okay, so those are the neutrals. Let's move on to some classes. I don't want this podcast to go on for like too long. So
I know, we've already talked. Oh, we're just so excited.
So excited about this expansion. Okay. Druid, there's one card I really want to talk about. It's Overflow. 7 mana, restore 5 health to all characters, draw 5 cards. So sprint.
I don't get. Okay, sure, go. Say what you got to say. I'm just confused why you want to talk about
it's
this.
It's a sprint. It's a sprint with upside, and druids get it. And when you're sprinting, something that's good to be sprinting is that because you need the game to go on for longer, right? That's why you're sprinting. Healing is pretty good. I mean, it's not as good as putting 5/5 on the board. It's not ultimate infestation, but this is like a way for druids to refill, and druids don't have enough cards to refill without ultimate infestation. Like they nerfed Nourish too. So Nourish is like draw what 3 cards I think, and that's like 6 mana. So it's 7 mana, you're drawing 5 cards. It's way better. Like this is just like it opens up a druid a thing that druids can do now, right? That they couldn't before. And it's archetype opening for druids. So I think it's a very important card. And I know some players really hate sprint, but we've never hated on sprint like that badly. in Rogue, and in Druid, it's an even more playable card, I think.
Cool.
Okay, next one. By the way, if you're watching this on YouTube, the website we're using is the Blizzard official website. They finally gotten it to a good enough shape that we're using this instead of third-party sites.
I was gonna say, I'm like, I don't recognize this site. I was gonna commentate and be like, oh wow, this site actually looks
Professionally
good.
done, right? It's almost as if
Yeah.
professionals did it. Took them 5 years, but now it's all set up for Blizzard. So good for Blizzard. You guys should check it out. It's just playhearthstone.com. If you just search Saviors of ULDUM, you'll get here. Okay, so for Hunter, which card do you want to talk about, Hunter? Is it the same one I want to talk about?
I don't know. Well, I want to talk about Desert Spear because I love the design of it. We can
Fine.
talk about Hunter's Pack for being stupid.
All right. Let's talk about the design you like, and then I'll talk about how stupid Hunter's Pack is.
Sure. So Desert Spear is a 3-mana 1/3 weapon. After your hero attacks, summon a 1/1 Locust with Rush. The Locust is also a beast. I love the design of this card. This is something in which hunters definitely need, right? They need pings. We all know how good Candle Shot is, but just having another minion with Rush. So at any given turn, you have 2 damage that you can throw around split up. And no, you cannot use the 1/1 to go face, but the flexibility, along with just the consistent damage that you get with the Desert Spear, I love it. It's fantastic. It fits in so many archetypes, whether you are playing aggro hunter or you're playing dirty, disgusting, degenerate mid-range control hunter. Cool design. I just think that this is a good card.
Yeah. It's also a like if you think of 3 mana 2/3 weapon, that's like basically Stormforge Axe, and that's already really good. This is just more flexible, and in almost all cases, it's better. Except for going face, which is now the new hunter design, and nothing's allowed to go face. Uh, I mean, it's fair. They had to. They just basically screwed up the hero power. Um, like in designing Gods Unchained, we have God powers, which are kind of similar, and we had to design like freaking like I don't know, 30 something of them. So I had a lot of experience in designing those, and something like the Hunter hero power, it's just so much better than all the other ones, even the Warlock one. It's just like very out of step. So they messed up on that design, and now they have to like design Hunter very carefully. Okay, so Hunter's Pack is 3 mana. Add a random Hunter Beast Secret a weapon to your hand. So that's Beast Secret Weapon, all Hunter cards. So that's 3 cards. They're all random cards, but they're all random class cards. And generally, Hunter Beast Secrets and weapons are all pretty good. In fact, all Hunter weapons are good. Hunter Secrets are the best. Like if you want a random secret, you want it to be a Hunter Secret, not a mage or a Paladin Secret. And okay, random Beast is a little hit or miss, but still much more on the hit side. And for 3 mana, you normally get 2 cards. You are now getting 3. That's a pretty big deal.
Yeah, you're getting 3 good cards because you're getting class cards, right? If you think about the sort of randomized draw cards, a lot of the times you're like, oh, get Death Rattle cards or get like this sort of card. You are getting all class cards and a diversified amount of class cards that do different things. You want board presence? Here's a beast. You want sort of a good situational, but oftentimes good sort of tempo play. Well, the secrets are, half of them are pretty good for that. And you want some initiative? You get the weapon. The one weapon you don't want is Roque Delar. That's like the one weapon that you really don't want. But everything else is really good tempo and some reach, some face damage as well. So Hunter's Pack is just, it's so good. It's so good. I looked at it, I'm just like, oh man, mid-range Hunter. This could definitely be a thing. Or Hunter's Pack, like I might even draft it in my archetype. Just go super fast, and then Hunter's.
It's a refill.
Pack, it's a total refill, and it's cheap enough that like I don't basically, for me, I'm just like, okay, if I draft fives, they have to be really good. You can look at this as like a potential five kind of. So man, it's good, but I just wish they would go back to giving hunters actually good early game minions. Like give me back, like give
Yeah,
me
that's
more
not
alley,
happening.
give me more alley cats. Come on, give me more. Uh,
Well, you're getting the alley cat back, so.
yeah, and also the Razor Maul, right?
Uh-huh.
But give me more of those.
Nope,
I need
it's
more of
all
those.
about card draw now. This is now the Hunter's forte. You got Mark Shot, you got Hunter's Pack now. Hunter's all about that control game. That's what happens in design when you mess up your base. Okay, we are now a mage. So, this is a card that is extremely interesting and also one of the most frustrating things you're going to play against in the arena if you're a good player and you're trying to figure out what to do because there's no right answer. And that speaks to, I think, pretty bad design. Like, it might as well be RNG. 2 mana, 3/2, Arcane Flak Mage. After you play a secret, deal 2 damage to all enemy minions.
This is so dumb.
That's a Consecration. That's a 4 mana card, which will probably be a 5 mana effect. So you get a free 5 mana effect if you play a secret. So the way to do this is obviously put it on the board and play a secret on the same turn. So it starts at 5 mana or later, right? You play them both out of your hand, you guarantee your Consecration. Your free Consecration, because then you know your opponent, you know you actually want the Consecration. So that's not, I mean, that's bad. It's a weirdly powerful synergy. But the worst part about it is it's on the board now, right? Let's say you don't use the synergy, it's just like kind of on the board. What do you do in response to this thing? Like, assuming you can't just kill it off. You can't do much, and if your opponent has a secret, they just have a secret and you're screwed. You can't, like, play around the effect if it's already on the board. Like, I don't know what I'm going to do against this guy.
I hate this. And I hate the fact that this card doesn't deal 2 damage to all minions. It's all enemy minions as well. I'm like, couldn't you just make it deal to like all other minions, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I hate it. Like the risk assessment for this is just it's like you said. What if they have sort of on turn 5, you don't really have anything. You just sort of completed your turn, you cleared the board. They drop this along with a 3-drop, and then you go into your next turn. It's like, man, how highly do you value? It's like, oh man, like I gotta use, let's say, my Frostbolt on this, right? Or can you say, I think I can play something into it? You just don't know. And the punish for you choosing wrong, for them just dropping this 2 and not and you not respecting it, it's so high. It's so ridiculously high. So man, I hate this. I hate the design of it for something like Arena, because in Constructed, if they were to build a deck around this, they have it. This is just part of the combo. You might as well think of it as just 5 mana, drop a 3/2, deal 2 damage to all of your minions immediately with a recurring effect. So it's really dumb. For any sort of limited format, I don't think you should have stuff like this.
Yep. It's also going to be a premium card. I think that goes without saying. It's a 2 mana 3/2 with a really huge upside on a synergy. So, yeah. And it's a persistent synergy too. You can play it on the same turn or after. It's just it's not gonna be fun. Speaking of not fun, the other mage card, mage is just gonna be not fun. Mage was, mage was ridiculously, like, you guys remember Conjurer's Calling, and you guys were like, oh, that's such a terrible card, it's so OP. And it was. We rated a 170 basically right out of the gate, and it stayed like that. I remember that there were people, not too many people, but there were some people that were like, Conjurer's Calling won't be that bad. The majority was right on that one, and it's out of the meta now, so you maybe think you're getting a break, but you're not. Between that Flak Mage, and there's only been, if you don't count the legendaries, we've only seen 4 of the Mage cards out of 8. So who knows what the rest contain. But you got Flak Mage, and then you got Puzzle Box of Yogg-Saron, which we talked about before because it's one of the first cards ever revealed. It's 10 mana, you cast 10 random spells, targets chosen randomly. And I was like, this is not going to be good. It's going to be way too random. Targets are chosen randomly. Then we plugged it into the algorithm, which knows exactly how to deal with cards like this, which is a little too complicated for at least for my brain to handle by itself. It's really good. Like not like the best card ever, but you're gonna draft it. Unless they put it in the very top bucket, it's gonna be draftable. If they put it in like a mid bucket because people don't like it for some reason, it's gonna be like you're gonna be forced to draft it. I'm not gonna tell you the exact score, but it's very good.
So here's the thing. When I initially saw this, I was like, ha ha ha, what a meme card. It's interesting that you brought this up. I didn't know you were going to talk about this, but this is one I actually thought of this past week. I completely agree. I don't like, you guys know my reputation as a hater now. Yeah, this is going to be good. Now that I've seen a lot of cards, the speed of the meta, but more importantly, this is what really pushed it over the edge for me and my thinking. In Constructed, there was a period of time, if you didn't watch Constructed, people played Yogg-Saron in their deck. And they, played a lot of spells. They got Yogg, and this is pre-nerf, so if Yogg died, it was still...
What did Yogg do? For those of us who are just like arena players and don't know these legendaries.
That's true. So in Old Gods, they released these God cards. Yogg-Saron is a 10 mana 7/5. And for every spell that you have cast thus far during that game, cast a random spell. So that's why this is Puzzle Box of Yogg-Saron. Similar effect. In Constructed, they didn't play Yogg-Saron for the body. They played it knowing that Yogg-Saron had like a decent chance of dying, but they still played it. Like, these are tournament level Constructed decks that played Yogg-Saron because it is just good. Like, these are people that, tournament players, they don't like that much variance. They don't.
Well, to be fair, if you're a tournament player facing against other tournament players, so it should even out. Unlike an arena where you want to maintain like a 75% win rate.
But yeah, like basically every card that's included in there is typically super synergistic, right? And a predictable synergy. And then I looked at this, I'm just like, geez, this is just Yogg. Like, yeah, it's not as good as Yogg when you built an entire deck around it, so you get the 7/5 body sometimes, and you also get 20 spells or something out of it. But what's really the difference between 10 spells and 15 spells like they got in Constructed? So this is going to be good. Mages are going to get to turn 10. This is going to at least clear the board. So if you're ahead and you're facing up against a mage, they're probably going to clear you with this. They're probably going to, also cast like Tome or Arcane Intellect to draw stuff. They're going to cast some secrets, which is really going to annoy the hell out of you. I hate it. I hate this card, but I completely agree. I think it's going to be really good.
Yeah, so someone in chat asked, do you play it if you're ahead or behind? I mean, you just play it. You try to play when you're behind more than when you're ahead, because it is RNG. You don't want to screw yourself, but if you're ahead, but like your chance of finishing them off is not like too high, you still play it if you need to use your mana. Like, I'd say this is the last card you play if you're ahead, but don't like skip a turn instead of playing this card, unless you think you have lethal the next turn anyway or something. Yeah, nothing more to say about that. Just that I think when we both looked at it, we both thought that it was not going to be all that great. And, I want to take that back. I trust the algorithm on this. It knows how many spells, percentage-wise, and how powerful they are that do not have targets. And so you're just casting it. It knows, how random the targets are. It knows all this stuff. It's just going to think about it better than we are. And it's good. Leave it at that. Feel free to pick that card. Even as a good, serious, I hate RNG player, that's going to be a card you're going to need to live with and pick. Okay, Paladin. Moving on to a more friendly note. I just think it's a very cute card. Micro Mummy. It's
Oh my gosh, yeah. I think this might be in contention, or really all the Paladin cards in contention for
so
best
Paladin
Dual Slime.
synergy is like stuff with 1 health. So it has a lot of cute cards coming in now.
Mhm. But not much to say about Paladins, I think. I think
Yeah.
Paladins are one of those things in which they're focusing on this sort of small Paladin archetype, which is kind of cool. Do you want to actually talk about something specific?
Yeah, Micro Mummy. It's a
All
2
right.
mana 1/2. We should tell people the card that they're
Two
going to
mana,
love.
Okay, 2 mana, 1/2 mech with Reborn. At the end of your turn, give another random friendly minion +1 attack.
It's so friendly. It only has 1 attack for 2 mana.
So this is Master Swordsmith
Mm-hmm.
2.0, better Master Swordsmith.
Yep. Because the second body has the same ability.
Yeah.
It's just a 1/1.
Yep.
So yeah, I mean, it trades with 3/2s, right? So it's a playable 2-drop, and then it has some extra buffs attached to it. It also sticks on the board, which is really important for Paladin, so that they can buff it. Like, it's a totally good card. It's not brokenly good, but it's a good card. I'm sad that it's epic and a creature, so you're actually not going to see it as often as I want to see it. But yeah, it's a card I wouldn't mind losing to, and I would love to play with. I love the design. That's all.
I like the design. Yep.
We hate on a lot of Blizzard designs in this expansion because it really seems like they just took balance and they were like, screw it. And they did that with Rise and Shadows, and they're just continuing it. This is the year of because I think last year it was very balanced, and they got nothing from it. Like, it was not very good to have a balanced game because Ungoro and Frozen Thrones and whatever were still in. So instead of keeping with it and seeing what happens when you have full standard meta with balance cards, they just were like, nope, power creep time. And that's where Rise of Shadows was, and this expansion is going to be actually a higher power level than Rise of Shadows. So within that context, Micro Mummy's nice. Okay, I don't want to talk about any Priest or Rogue cards. They're not terribly interesting to me.
I agree.
Okay. So let's talk about Shaman.
Oh, okay.
There's one card here I want to talk about. I don't know if you want to talk about another card, but I want to talk about Plague of Murlocs. It is a 3-mana card that transforms all minions into random Murlocs. So first of all, it's a board clear. It's like a Twisting Nether level board clear, and it gets rid of not even Twisting Nether. Screw Twisting Nether. It's a what's that new priest card that silences it because it transforms. So basically silences everything and then kills everything for 3 mana instead of 9.
Well, you still give them Murlocs.
Okay.
Murlocs buff each other too.
Yeah. So they get a bunch of Murlocs back, and you get some Murlocs, right? You're a shaman. You can turn a totem into a random Murloc too if you just throw in 2 more mana, which is not as good of a deal as you may think it is if you think it's a really great deal. It's like an okay deal. Definitely not a prerequisite to playing this card. But yeah. It's one of those cards that I think it's costed correctly.
It's definitely costed correctly. And I think the design is pretty cool. But I definitely don't think of it as a board clear, just because, sure, yeah, you can create totems and everything, but then they are also able to have initiative first, right? With their board on your board. Yeah, it does depend because there are
Bluegill
rush. Yeah, with rush and charge and everything. So
yeah, but also it pairs very nicely with Lightning Storm and any board clear.
Oh yeah, definitely
to do a full board clear. So if you think of
they have pretty low health.
Yeah, and they don't have death rattles or divine shields. They don't really protect themselves very well. So you can combine it with anything else and get an actual full board clear. So that's also nice. Sometimes, as a backup, 3 mana deal 2 damage because you needed to remove something bigger than what your board clear was originally capable of is a good enough card. In addition to its normal use. Anyway, I'm not saying it's the most powerful card they're printing. It's not. It's not even the most powerful. Earthquake is next to it, right? That's better. But Plague of Murlocs is going to be good. enough to use, and it's very shaman-y. I like it.
Yep, I like the flavor of it. I like the power level of it. I like the decisions that you have to make because of this on both sides. So, really, really well designed card and fun card.
Mm-hmm.
It's hard to check both of those boxes.
Yeah.
Like fun and well designed and fair. So
Mm-hmm.
this is awesome. Good job, please.
Yep. Any other shaman cards you want to talk about?
No, not really. We talked about like the totem and how much I don't like it. As in, I don't like the design of it.
Yeah.
Not that I don't like it because it's going to be really powerful.
Anyway. It's powerful. I'm going to skip Warlock for now and go back to it. Let's do Warrior first.
All right, let's do Warrior first because we should end on Warlock. Okay.
So, any card you want to talk about on Warrior?
Not really. So here's the thing, right? Warrior, if you guys are thinking that we are going to go back to the glory days where Warrior was king of the meta and just oppressively kind of pushed back on all other control archetypes, we're not gonna get there. Like we were never getting there, but I want to also just see the cards that came out. And
oh, you didn't hear? There's a new card released. It's called Warpath: The Second Coming, and it just deal 2 damage instead of 1 to all minions for 1 extra mana.
Oh, yeah, I heard of it. Instead of Warpath, it's Path of War. Oh, yeah. And so it's 2 mana, deal 1 damage to all minions, return this card to your hand. Permanent.
Yep.
Amazing.
Yep.
Obviously works incredibly different. It's like totally not Echo, okay? Like
it's not. It's an additional hero power.
Yeah, exactly. All right, so that's probably never going to happen again because Warrior just capitalized on just this perfect storm, and Warrior could still be good once again, just depending on the buckets, depending on the micro adjusts. They certainly have a couple of good cards coming in, but they're just not going to get some of the essential removal cards that made Warriors what they were. And that's fine. Warriors have had their turn to shine now. They shined brighter than some other classes have ever shined. Like the peak of Warrior was extraordinarily high.
Nope.
Not necessarily in terms of win rates. Like I made a video about this, right? But in terms of everyone considering Warrior and everyone thinking about Warrior in that way, and then sort of casting like a shadow over the rest of the arena. Yeah. Paladins have had that at times. We've had that with like Warlocks. We've had that with Hunter, but Warrior joins them. It's like if you look at the peak of Warriors, they've they mattered. Your whole entire movement of making Arena Warriors mattered.
4 years down the line, they mattered a little too much. People were like, you need to start a movement called Arena Warriors Matter Too Much. Make it matter less. Yeah. And I'm like, yeah, let's wait a little bit. But that lasted a whole, I don't know. I mean, it lasted a whole entire expansion and a half.
It did.
So it had its day in the sun. The new Warrior thing seems to be taunt related. So I wouldn't say, Control Warrior is going to be something you can do. It's not going to be that powerful, as Merp said, but it's not going to be something you can't do in the arena. Like right now, if you go into Rise of Mechs and you try to play a Control Warrior, what are you doing? And people do that, and they lose a lot. But in this new meta, you can. Control Warrior is kind of a thing. But the cards I want to talk about are the super powerful cards. There's the silly cards that are being printed. This is going to be the next coming, by the way, of Evil Miscreant. It's called Livewire Lance. After 3 mana, after your hero attacks, add a lackey to your hand. It's a 2/2 weapon. Okay, so you're giving up about a mana. 2/2 weapon should be 2 mana, and maybe do something else, but you're getting 2 lackeys for it. So think about how bad Evil Miscreant was. Ignore the fact that it's a combo. It's a 1/4, which should be 1 mana? If you can't play it on turn 1, it should be 1 mana. And it's 3 mana, and you get 2 lackeys for it, and it has a combo. So here's one that should be 1.5 mana, maybe even 2 mana, and you get 2 lackeys for it. So it's even worse, and it has no conditional whatsoever. You just equip it, and then you like hit stuff with it. It's what you want to do anyway. Weapons are powerful in the arena anyway. This is one of the most like powerful cards in this expansion, no matter what else happens, just because it's a lackey generator. I guess it's not too out of line with other warrior premium weapons. They're all really powerful, whether you're talking about Super Collider or Soltharaz or like Gorhau or whatever. So there's just a different valuation system that's happening for warrior weapons. But yeah, this is right up there with it. And
I think.
No, go ahead. I didn't have a thought. I was moving on to another card.
So with Livewire Lance, part of you were talking about the fact that weapons are really good, and part of what Blizzard puts into the cost of this card is the fact that you are taking up the weapon slot for the warrior for a certain amount of turns, right?
Yeah.
This is why, for example, Gorhau can exist, period. Or it's also why, Fool's Bane was a totally fair card, and like no one really played it in Constructed either, right? But it's really good in Arena just because this sort of resource, you as the warrior, like taking up your weapon slot, when Blizzard designs it for Constructed, that slot is extraordinarily valuable because
you always have a weapon.
You only have one weapon, so you select what you put in there, and it needs to synergize with everything. And so that just taking up that slot, there's a huge cost to it, and Blizzard puts that cost into the card. And for Arena, we really haven't had many metas in which that has been an issue. So like this cost that Blizzard is putting in, there's just this huge dissonance between Constructed and Arena, because they necessarily for Constructed have to put in this cost, and for Arena there's like really not this cost, and weapons just end up being ridiculously powerful, like Livewire Lance, even though for most of Hearthstone's sort of existence, warriors, they've always had amazing weapons, and they've still been pretty trash.
Yep. Buckets kind of like help with this, in that you're always offered like more weapons now, rather than them like pigeonholing you into more weapons, so you're more able to get the appropriate amount of weapons. But still, it's just not the same resource in Constructed. Things are always going to be more powerful in Arena than Constructed, right? Like weapons, anything that generates random cards, because in Constructed, they're random cards, right? They're not that good. In Arena, you're like, well, we're kind of just playing with random cards anyway. Like, we don't really have a plan. We have a pretty loose deck compared to Constructed. So random cards is always going to be overvalued. Those are like, it doesn't matter what meta you're in. Those are always going to be overvalued for that reason. They're just using a different kind of like resource that you can't, that you just, it is impossible to balance a game without changing cards for both Arena and Constructed. And all cards are balanced for Constructed. So these cards that have these qualities they're necessarily going to be overpowered in Arena. Okay, the other one does not have to be overpowered in Arena. I don't know why it exists. I don't know like how good it's going to be, but I think it's going to be very good. Bloodsworn Mercenary, 3 mana 3/3, so it's like a bad 3-drop, but it's still a possible 3-drop. Battlecry, choose a damage-friendly minion. Summon a copy of it. Like, what? That's like a extra decent-sized body on the board. So, okay, premium card, like right off the bat. I don't think it's going to be super overpowered, because getting a damage-friendly minion that's actually like super good or whatever is kind of hard. But it's a premium card. I don't know. Just wanted to point out that warriors are getting stuff. And these two cards, the Livewire Lance and Bloodsworn Mercenary, are the cards that are not like part of their whole taunt thing, which is going to synergize with itself quite nicely, I think. Because they have a lot of taunt stuff and buffing taunt stuff and all that stuff. They also have, I don't know, Warrior's gonna be good. Okay. Well, we're moving on. We're moving on because we're running out of time, and we need to talk about. Like, we mentioned a lot of things that are busted, right? Like, we went over and we're like, oh, what do we say? Hunter's getting pretty busted stuff. Mage is getting pretty busted stuff. A Warrior's getting pretty busted stuff. But they're all like fluffy micro mummies next to the one class. And that class is Warlock. Do you want to... Where do you want to start? Because we can start anywhere in all of these cards. We have seen so far, not including legendaries, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. We've seen 6 non-legendary cards. And we could start anywhere.
Okay, I think we need to start with something that we have not really seen in quite a few other classes, but is a total premium in Warlock, which is removal. And that is Plague of Flames.
Ah, yes.
Plague of Flames is a 1-mana rare spell. Destroy all your minions. For each one, destroy a random enemy minion. This thing is insane. This thing is just insane. So,
1 mana Twisting Nether? That's a good card?
Right. It might take you a couple, maybe one card more than your opponent has put out to clear their board or something like that, but you're Warlock. You don't care about that. This thing costing 1 mana is stupid. It is so stupidly good. And we're also not in a meta that is going to be dominated by 1/1s, or it shouldn't be, right? You will still have some small minions like gastropods and wasp and everything, but because of the speed at which you're going and because of the AoEs that are coming back, I think you're going to have a tough time finding people playing Token Druid or something like that. So it's going to be mid-size, or people are going to be playing big things and whatnot. And this is just a little bit too good because as Warlock, you can draft a little bit smaller because you have the reload with your hero power. You also have reload in other ways that we're going to talk about. But this is...
You remember this card? I think it was 3 mana. And it was destroy a minion and then sacrifice one of your minions and then destroy a random opponent minion. Was that a card? That feels like a Warlock card to me in my head.
What, Unwilling Sacrifice?
Yeah. Was that 3 mana? 2 mana?
That was 3 mana.
That was 3 mana. Okay, so this is Unwilling Sacrifice, but it lost 2 mana, and it now can be done a number of times. So I don't know who did the math on these things, but this is not how math works. This is not how this game works. They obviously tested it. It apparently passed whatever constructed balancing tests that they did. But in the arena, this is going to be ridiculous. So you can literally do this. You could play cards, Plague of Flames, to just basically trade evenly with your opponents on cards, or maybe you're 1 off, but really you get cards that generate other, multi-minion cards or whatever, and really be ahead on this. You would have spent less mana than them. You would have spent at most 1 additional card than them, and you get to refill your board on the same turn. If this is in a later turn. So, yeah. I don't know what is going to happen in the arena, because we talked a lot about what the meta is going to be, but part of what we assume is that the meta is going to move in inches and not miles, and that there's not going to be a totally busted class dominating the entire meta, because that warps everything, right? You remember Rogue in the beginning of Rise of Shadows. You guys remember that Hunter period where they were just the spellstones were going crazy and they bump Hunters up too high. There are metas in which a class just the Warrior meta that Merps was talking about before. There are metas in which a class dominates so hard that it warps the entire meta around them, so that you're if you want to win more than 8 games in the arena, you're going to bump into an endless stream of these. You're not going to bump into 1 every 3 matches. You're going to bump into 1 every less than every 2 matches at the top. And that warps the meta because your decks can't get through 12 without beating their decks. Plague of Flames is insane enough to perhaps lift Warlocks there by itself. Now, after Plague of Flames, you also have Disease Vulture. I'm just going to read these cards out. I'm not even going to comment on them too hard. Disease Vulture, 4 mana, 3/5. After your hero takes damage on your turn, summon a random 3-cost minion. Okay, so it's like a 3/5 version that's better than a Murloc Knight. Got it, fine. Rift Cleaver, 6 mana, 7/5. So it's lost 1 stat in order to get this battle cry. Destroy a minion. Your hero takes damage equal to its health. So granted, that's a lot of health you're taking down. This is not like, I don't think it's as busted as people think it is, but it's still really good, right? And you can pick where it hits. So if you have health problems, just kill a small thing. Or like play it on an empty board or something, right? Whatever. Kill a 1/1, right? It doesn't do that much. Okay. Evil Recruiter, 3 mana, 3/3. Battlecry, destroy a friendly lackey, summon a 5/5 demon. Ignore how good it's going to be, because I don't even know how many lackeys there's going to be around. It's entirely possible this card's not actually that good. But the swing, oh my god.
The swing is stupid. That's the thing. And it's not like you can keep on... if you have the option to clear a lackey or something, yeah, I'd probably do it. But a lot of the times, lackeys cost 1.
Yeah.
So
you just play the same turn.
Yeah, you just play the same turn. You can't really make it awkward for your opponent. And suddenly, for 4 mana, they're getting
3/3/5/5.
a split. Yeah, a split 8/8 worth of stats. It's just like, come on, dude.
Yeah, and they're getting extra stats on top of that because the lackey has extra bonus stats attached to it, right? It's not a normal 1 mana card. So yeah, okay.
Yeah.
High swings. Now, in reality, I really don't think there's that many lackeys because remember, Evil Genius is rotating out of the meta. So if you're looking at Plague of Flames and you're like, oh, lackeys are insane with it. Yeah, lackeys are kind of insane with it, but at the same time, like, you're not going to have that many lackeys probably. I actually don't think Evil Recruiter is going to be like as broken as people think it is, but then again, the lackey generator that Warlocks are going to get has not been revealed yet. So, we'll see. Expired Merchant, 2 mana, 2/1. Battlecry, discard your highest cost card, Death Rattle, add 2 copies of it to your hand. You're basically drawing a card that can't help you in your curve for a while. But these kinds of cards, like Loot Hoarders, right? Like, they're good. Loot Hoarders generally gets a pretty high rating. Embalming, 4 mana, Assassinate. Then shuffle 3 worthless imps into your deck. So they're 1 mana 1/1s, and they make your deck worse later on. But still, you get a 4 mana Assassinate. Ignore if it's 4 mana. Even if it's a 5 mana Assassinate, that's still an extra Assassinate you get in your pool. And Assassinates are pretty damn good in the arena, especially when the meta goes later. So, those are all the cards that have been revealed, by the way. We didn't, skip bad ones. I just, read every single card that's been revealed for Warlock so far.
Yeah. No, it's pretty ridiculous. I remember 2 weeks ago, we were just like, oh, man, Warlocks, they are losing a decent amount. They're not, it's like, things have to be crazy for them to be relevant. Yeah, and then Blizzard it's hold my beer.
Yep.
Let me show you what we have in store for Warlocks. Oh, boy. Ooh,
so, if we're taking bets on what would dominate the meta, it went from, Warlocks are in trouble, they better raise the offering rates, to, please, Blizzard, do not take Warlock win rates in the current meta as any indication of what's going to happen in the next meta. Oh my god. Oh.
Yeah. So we'll see. We shall see. I don't know. I would say that, man, I am really, really happy if Warlocks are good, because it means Hunter is probably going to be good.
Yeah, especially because none of these cards heal.
None of these heal, but Plague of Flames scares me.
Yeah.
Because I can't trade into their minions.
It's also very flexible. Plague of Flames is actually not that bad for you relatively, right? Because they're killing small things. But you could throw, Plague of Flames, why do you exist?
Why does it cost 1 mana? I don't get it. It's like when you're negotiating with a guy and it's like, and you actually convince them with the old heads I win, tails you lose kind of thing. It's like, wait, what? How did this happen? How, compared to Unwilling Sacrifice, how are you cheaper and better?
Yeah.
Okay.
I don't know.
Anyways.
I don't know. But this is going to be a pretty good candidate for Broken Class. We'll see, we'll see. And the thing is, the other cards are going to be good too, at least one of them, because one of them is going to be a lackey generator, and they have to be good. All lackey generators have been good so far. And 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So that means there's one more card besides the lackey generator left in Warlock that hasn't been revealed yet. So at most, it's going to have one non-premium card. Well, okay, Evil Recruiter, I think, is probably not premium. I think so, maybe 2.
Yeah.
But still, that's insane. And a premium card's like above a 130. Like, this is, I don't know. I'm struggling to process this. These all have offering bonuses, by the way, in case you forgot, because they're all this expansion that's coming up.
And letting you guys know, there is still a chance based on the bucketing for their lackey generator and neutral lackeys that can, like, there's a chance that Evil Recruiter can be higher as well.
Yeah,
totally. We don't have all the information.
We don't have all the information
to say that Evil Recruiter is not going to be a premium. It could be, but it's its score completely turns on the availability and prevalence of lackeys.
Yup. All right, that's our early card preview. If you want to hear us talk more about it, I mean, we're going to mostly focus on valuation, less on design in our valuation stream. But yeah, you're going to hear all the Lightforge tier list scores and everything next Sunday. As usual, we're going to start 1 hour earlier than we normally do, so it's going to be at 5 o'clock Eastern. That way we don't have to go to 2 a.m. like we used to go to. We are old people now. We cannot go to 2 a.m. anymore. Our bodies will physically break. So we're going to start at 5 p.m. Eastern Time, U.S. Eastern Time on Sunday. Let's have a party. Bring your friends, bring your chips, bring a drink. It's going to be fun. Any question from the GOAT before we end today's much longer than anticipated stream?
No. Let's just end this here.
Let's just end it. We are ending this Lightforge, and we will see you for the valuation stream next Sunday. Another reminder, no streams this week. We're picking up next Sunday. So yeah, see you guys. Until next week, this is Adwicta.
This is Merps. Bye, guys.